Don says in question 7, now some entities on this planet evolved through second density into third, and some were transferred from other planets to recycle in third density here. Did the ones who were transferred here to recycle in third density add to the planetary or racial mind? That's an excellent question. Ra says, not only did each race add to the planetary mind, but also each race possesses a racial mind. Thus, we made this distinction in discussing this portion of mind. This portion of mind is formed in the series of seemingly non-simultaneous experiences which are chosen in freedom of will by the mind-body-spirit complexes of the planetary influence. Therefore, although this akashic, planetary, or racial mind is indeed a root of mind, it may be seen in sharp differentiation from the deeper roots of mind, which are not a function of altering memory, if you will. So, very heavy here. And this is all we got for this answer, actually, because then there is the interference, which we're going to talk about briefly, and then we'll move on to the next questions. Okay, so a bit of background to this question. When Don refers to entities evolving from second to third density, he's talking about the evolution of native life on Earth. That means that the mind-body complexes that existed in second density, which were developing self-consciousness, self-awareness, and thus allowing themselves to graduate to third density, these are, let's call them natives, right? They brought their own biases, they developed their own biases, and they had their own line of evolution, right? So theirs was the, let's say, the privilege, the prerogative to evolve through planet Earth. However, because of interventions of the Confederation, as explained by Ra, some other souls, if you will, were transferred from Mars and Maldek. This created a quarantine because this was considered an infringement of free will. Infringement of whose free will? Of the natives here, who instead of just be left alone, they were mixed. And so here's where the origin, which a lot of people have been talking about over decades already, perhaps, I don't know if centuries, but definitely more in the, it's a little bit sensationalist when it's expressed this way, when they say that planet Earth is an experiment. Planet Earth has been an experiment by aliens. So it's a little bit more sophisticated to see it this way. I mean, I'm sure that some people prefer to see it as, no, there are aliens who have come here and they have tinkered with our DNA and they have made changes, and so they made us inferior so they can dominate us. This is all, I guess, a sort of way to see it, if people want to see it that way. I tend to lend more credence to the elegant way that is presented in the Law of One, which all of it is true, but who are the aliens? We're talking about higher intelligence. Did they interfere? Yes, they did. Did they want to dominate us? And not really, unless we're talking about Orion group. So this is why maintaining a cosmology that is cohesive with itself is important. And I find it to be very pleasant, personally, to follow a specific philosophy or cosmology, like I said, that contains everything within itself. Now that's the explanation. You can see that there was an infringement on free will, and that was to transfer these entities. Because there's so much, and I'm quite aware of the neurosis that sometimes arises in people when they hear this. This is the victimhood mentality, to say, oh, I am a victim, I am a product of experimentation by aliens. It is not experimentation as we think, the mad scientist, the mad alien scientist. This is not coherent with free will, and it doesn't stand against the knowledge of self as creator. It doesn't make sense. But it is, of course, an introductory way to approach these mysteries as to how humanity has been created and evolved in a certain way. So there are nuggets of truth here, but I would invite people to be more profound with their research and how they want to create their worldview, because at the end it's all about the worldview. Do you find yourself pushed by the universe, or do you find yourself the creator of the universe? That's going to dictate how you live your life, your emotions, and the way you treat others and yourself. So I find it much more congruent to see it this way, because it is cohesive with everything that we find in the mystical path, which is the realization that who you fundamentally are is the very essence of the universe. Otherwise, we're getting into victimhood mentality, and I do not promote that. I actually try to shave it off, everything and anything, specifically in this material, which is metaphysical and aliens and all of these stuff is promulgated, if you will, also by people who study the law of one, which I find to be limited, and I would make my own refinement whenever I can. So, Ra explains, not only did each race add to the planetary mind, but also each ray possesses a racial mind. So we're talking about here Maldek, Mars, and after a while, for some reason, we started welcoming other second density graduates, if you will. I remember some from Deneb, the star Deneb. They were transferred here because they decided to have their third density experience here. Much like dual activated bodies, which are graduates from third density now, are coming at this time of the cycle to enjoy the early stages of fourth density cycle. So something similar has been happening. Now, what is relevant here is that this coming of different planetary races, right? Maldek, Mars, Deneb, for example, all of them have come in here, and they have mixed themselves with the natives. So keep that in mind, because we're going to keep exploring this. So, all right, they say that's why we made the distinction in discussing this portion of mine. So they wanted to make that distinction of saying, okay, so there is the race, Mars race, Maldek race, Earth race, Deneb race. All of these are races that came here, and they started to get mixed with the planetary mind. And that's why they also call it racial mind, which I think is a little bit misleading. I would call racial mind that to make a distinction, but it is true that once you're in the planet, you are humans. It doesn't matter if you were from Mars, from the Pleiades, from Sirius, or from Venus, Maldek, whatever it is that you feel that you are from, you're human. And I've been emphasizing this whenever I can to eliminate the possibility of labeling ourselves, identities. Oh, somebody told me that I am from such and such a place. Well, it doesn't matter where you're from. You're human, and that is even more powerful than your origin. You're much more being human. Let me say that. You are much more being human than what you were before, because what you were before didn't include being human. And now human is another trait, another characteristic, another beauty, another petal in your Sahasrara, if you want, your crown chakra, another petal to be experienced. It's add to your experience, don't take out from it. That's my advice. Then they say, this portion of mine is formed in the series of seemingly non-simultaneous experiences which are chosen in freedom of will by the mind-body-spirit complexes of the planetary influence. Okay, so this portion of mind, the planetary mind, is formed by it's non-linear time. You see, we think that we are a product of linear time, but what we really are is a product of the simultaneity that exists in all of creation. For example, you are an expression of the Big Bang. Believe it or not. You ever thought about that? No. Well, think about it. You're an expression of all apes, of all animals that have existed. You're an expression of the whole universe. But the whole universe is so obviously vast, or obviously infinite in potential, that it needs to express itself in the most minute form, which is you. And the more minute it is, the better the experience, right? The more you try to take over, then the less the experience, the lesser intensity of the experience it is. Ra has talked about this, about how the densities, the higher the densities, the more pale the experience is. In any case, Ra says, therefore, although this akashic, planetary, or racial mind is indeed a root of mind, it may be seen in sharp differentiation from deeper roots of mind, which are not a function of altering memory. So here's an important one. See, it's I can see why they... Yeah, this explains it better. The reason why they use synonymously planetary, racial, and akashic mind, I would think that akashic and planetary are fine, but racial mind, it requires a little bit more refinement for us, because we say, hold on, there is racial and then there's planetary. Yes, but once the race has been included within the planet, it becomes part of the planetary mind. Let me give you an example of this that Ra explained here, and I think this comes later. I don't know if we cover it already. The influence of Mars, because Mars has, I think, 25-hour days or something like that. That small influence on the mind in Mars has made an impact in circadian rhythms here on humans. So that's already mixed. You know, some people feel it more than others. They feel that their days are 25 hours or so. I forget what the exact time is, but yeah, there's a feeling. You see, that's included here in humans. So it's all mixed. However, we can say that the origin of that is from the planetary mind, we should call it rays. It was a planetary mind in Mars, but now when transferred here is a rays. I hope that makes sense. All planets have their planetary mind, but if they come and they include themselves here for the experience of their density, my understanding is that it becomes a racial mind that is influencing now this planetary mind on Earth. It's so messy, but I hope you can see it. Okay, now the next thing they say is that this mind is indeed a root of mind, because it is part of ourselves. We can say, oh, those of Mars, those are Maldic that are here, they're still so belligerent and conflicting. They are the cancer of this. You're talking about yourself. So now you have to accept that. You see, the fact that you came as a wanderer from another planet doesn't mean that, oh, you know, I'm just here to alleviate the planet's frequency. I don't want to do anything. I don't have to do anything with Mars and Maldic and so on. You have to accept that. That's part of you already. And it has always been part of you. It's just that you're experiencing it a different way, from a different angle. So yes, it is indeed a root of mind. It may be seen in sharp differentiation from the deeper roots of mind, which basically do not have a function of altering memory, because memory is part of this moving mind that is changing, this evolving mind, whereas there are parts of the roots of mind which are not properly they're not part of the changing phenomena that is occurring in the mind right now, right? They're just roots of mind that inform intelligently the experience, the changing experience of the mind. You see? So we can differentiate that. I love that Ra mentions this because although ultimately the whole mind is changing, it's evolving universally, cosmic, in a cosmic scale. What we experience is there is a differentiation between this planetary mind, which is evolving and changing, I would say perhaps more rapidly and visibly than those roots of the mind that are informing how these changes can be beneficial for evolution. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, this is all the different roots of the mind and the refinement of this cosmic mind as it experiences itself. Very deep metaphysics.